Hello.
Hello. Hi, Emil. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
I hope you had a good holiday.
Yeah, I did. Some long time off and not thinking too much about work. That's good. It
Sounds
wasn't
great.
that good weather though, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm quite glad anyway I wasn't in Southern Europe this summer. So 45 degrees in Italy, right? Were you there then? No? In Sicily,
Yeah.
I think it's like
Oh, yeah.
45 degrees sometime.
Hi, Adam. Yeah, it's getting crazy hot there.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the link to the notes for today.
Hello, hello.
Then
Hi, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Thanks.
Nice, nice.
Last week before holidays. So
Ah, cool, cool.
before I said.
will you be off for 2 weeks, Andrea, or how long will you be off now?
I'll be off until the beginning of September. I think the 3rd of September.
Okay.
So I'll be back for one day on the 17th of August. Just check in to see if there is anything urgent happening, and then I'll be off again.
Okay.
Yeah, let me share the notes. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty fast. It's a good time to get started. So welcome everyone to the events working group. Today, my name is Andrea Frittoli. I'm with IBM. I put the link to the notes in the chat. Feel free to sign yourself in if you would like to. Yeah, so on the agenda today, I've got only a couple of items. First is Oktoberfest, and then connecting events, which is kind of the main item you're working on the specification. But if you would like to have more things discussed, please bring them up or add them to the agenda. Hi, Tracy. Welcome.
I'm
Okay.
just wondering, should we have, a topic about the next release and potentially about the 1.0 release coming eventually? I'm not sure how far we can come with that discussion today, but I think it's about time to start thinking about the next release and also 1.0. At least declaring what remains to be done before we can get there.
Sure. Yeah, I can. Okay. Hi, Tracy.
Hey.
We're just about this to get started. All right. So the first thing I just wanted to bring it up. Hopefully, it's just a quick one, but so we discussed Oktoberfest 2023. Fatih brought it up in the TOC meeting. So And Roxanne would like to know by the end of August which project plan to participate, and hopefully have like a blog post and live and to be sent to the CDF by September 29th. So last year we did participate. We did a blog post on, well, we set up like a GitHub issue, and that was what we published. So it can be the same, or it can be a blog post and some blog that you want. And then we need a project contact person that is volunteering to be like the point of contact towards CDF for Oktoberfest. So yeah, put here link to Oktoberfest 22 from the CDF website. Yeah, so ideally the list of participating project at least should be finalized by the next TOC meeting, so August 15th. So I wanted to bring it up. I think last year we did participate. We had a little bit of PRs, a few PRs happened. And I think CDEvents, Oktoberfest requires a little bit of initial investment, but not too much. And I think this year we have even more projects and things that where people could contribute to. And I think the more we invest, the better is the return. So last year, Jenkins had something like so they had, where is it? Yeah, like 166 PRs. So I'm not saying that the CDEvents we're going to get to that number, but already last year I think we had a few. So maybe if we keep the momentum and every year participate, we can get more and more contribution. And it requires a little bit of extra review bandwidth, and maybe the contributor are not like the occasional contributor, but still I think it's beneficial for the project. And so if you want to participate, we need someone to drive the effort, so to be the main contact person to the CDF, and a list of projects from the CDEvents that are interested, like side projects, maybe the SDKs, the website, or the visualization project, and so forth. We need to write a blog post. Oh, sorry, not tech.test. So this is a copy-paste issue. And ideally, a list of interested reviewers and mentors. Again, this is optional. So my vote would be to participate. But yeah, I wanted to get the feeling.
I think we should participate as well, and I'm happy to write the blog post for it. Sometimes, like when I do the Ortelius blog post, I'll list specific in the blog post, so people just literally can click on it and go from there. I don't think we'll be there unless somebody can put together some Hacktoberfest pull requests, but I'm happy to do that. The other thing is we might want to ask for security events, unless we think that's too big of a project for somebody from in the Hacktoberfest world.
Yeah, that's pretty big. If they're willing to contribute a proposal and then kind of go through the design, I'd be probably more inclined for something like that. But especially with like security, that's really you have to just be careful. So you just don't want someone coming in and creating a PR with saying, oh, here's my security design, right? Without careful considerations. So I think for other features we can definitely lean towards doing, like I was thinking like maybe code generations for the SDKs, but security I think it's a little large.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. I think, well, obviously it would be good to have some input if anyone out there is available to provide ideas for security related events or fields in events. That would be great. But I think also that the Hacktoberfest issues should be such kind of issues that could easily be reviewed by one or two persons and then just merged. So like low-hanging fruit low entry issues. It would be great to get security related events and such fields in, obviously. But it would require quite a lot from the group mentoring those PRs then, I guess.
Well, if I think that we need to have the blog to Roxanne by the end of
September the 29th.
It's still a month and a half away.
Okay, so I'm going to be gone the last 2 weeks of September. So if I'm happy to write the blog, we just need to decide if we want to list specific issues in the blog. Or how you're going to tag them. And so when I write the blog, I'll know, but I would probably try to get that done by just after Labor Day.
Yeah, I think, you know, so generally how I've seen Hacktoberfest, they always like provide some, you know, some examples that people can solve. I think we can definitely come up with a list. Like I said, like a big one for me for the SDKs is code generation and modeling, like language modeling. I feel like we're at a point now where we could really benefit from that. And they could even start with just modeling a small portion of the SDK, right? Like, so it doesn't need to be the whole thing, but just start small. I think would be a very good task. And then of course, like documentation is always good as well. And then another thing that I think that would be another huge win is potential abstraction layers on top of the SDK, because right now the SDKs are very low level. So having things like, you know, hooks, you know, custom serializers, deserializers, things of that would go a very long way of people adopting, you know, because right now, if you want to adopt CDEvents, you have to write all this custom code to kind of get it bootstrapped and working. But if you had like some sort of abstraction layer where you could just hook into like serializers and deserialize, where people just need to include a dependencies, make some annotations, and it just works, like that would be a huge win. Of course, you know, like I said, that would be a more bigger task, but I think still doable for Hacktoberfest, or at least get some ideas going, right?
Yeah, Ben, I think adoption is such an important topic in this area. And it goes beyond us, actually. Adoption of because I do participate a lot in the OpenSSF security tooling discussions. And part of the problem with the security tooling is nobody wants to update their workflow files to add one tool at a time. So we do have an opportunity in terms of disrupting the CD pipeline with CDEvents. And I think that creating a really easy on-ramp in that way is something that we should definitely focus on. Yeah,
I agree. I think that's kind of like the future of how I see the SDKs working, at least in my mind. But like I said, we don't have to be the ones to write it. If someone is willing to like at least start that process, you know, where they make some easier abstractions, and then we just kind of build on top of that and kind of keep that ball rolling, would be really, really nice to see. That would be a huge win for me for Hacktoberfest if someone actually took the time and did that.
Yeah, I think it would be ideal to have like very, we could have at least a combination of like very small, very targeted issues for beginners that want to just solve a small thing. And then we can have some larger ones like in the SDK, improve or add to the code generation. Maybe you could expand, Ben, if you on the modeling, what you mean, if you want to create an issue about that.
Oh,
there
yeah,
are other
sure.
areas like auto generation of docs. I think I opened some issues. We had a presentation from was it Waymo? Sorry, I forgot. Sorry, looking for the name, but anyway, we had some ideas on how we could further automate the generation of the documentation, for instance, so we could have people looking into that. Yeah, so one thing, we have SDKs, but we don't have a CLI, so maybe building a CLI out of one of the SDKs could also be an option. But yeah, so
That's
I
a
think we
good place
could,
to start. Absolutely.
yeah,
Because that probably would be needed to do any kind of generation in the first place, right?
it could be. I mean, it can also generation of code. The SDK generation, like for Go, is done programmatically in Go.
Okay.
But having a CLI, I think it's very handy if you're building, for instance, some adapter and you want to have some easy way to, or if you want to send test events, for instance, to try things out, having an SDK, CLI that allows you to send in directly, I think it's very useful.
Yeah.
So yeah, so if folks have idea, maybe we can add them to the list here, or just create an issue and start tagging them with Oktoberfest. But I think we have a consensus that we want to participate. Thanks again, Tracy, for volunteering for the writing a blog post. So that's very
Yep, just keep in mind that I will be on vacation for 2 weeks, so I will need to get it done sometime after Labor Day. We'll have to get it done early.
nice. Anyone wants to be like the point of contact towards the CDF for Oktoberfest? Kind of.
I can do that. I'm happy to do that. I'll ping Roxanne and let her know to keep me posted. But I'm happy to do that.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'll be doing it for Ortelius anyway, so it's not hard to add to my list.
But should we do it that the way that you proposed, Andrea, that we label the tickets with Oktoberfest, and then we have, as last year, we have an issue, right, where we collect all those Oktoberfest issues. I think that was how we did last year. Or was it some view? Or how did we present all the tickets, all the issues?
I think we tagged them with Hacktoberfest for any issue that was a Hacktober. That's how they have to be tagged. So if we get in there and tag them, and then I can go through and in the blog I can list some of the specific ones. And I've copied how Jenkins does it. So I haven't come up with something new. So I do exactly how Jenkins writes theirs. And when you put a handful of the issues out there, it does tend to help. And then we just have to remember,
there's GitHub project for it there. Okay, so in there we can see all tickets that have the Oktoberfest issue on them, or label on them.
Yeah.
So that's
and if
easy.
there's do we still have things out there we can use for this year? Can we just rename this to 2023? Why not, right?
Many of them are not done, so yeah, sure. Rust SDK, for sure.
I mean, we had ideas of SDKs that we don't have today. I mean, those are not small ones, but if anyone wants to do like a bigger project or get kick-started at least. So yeah, that's something. And in this direction, maybe we have one outstanding issue that is assigned to me. I can work on that to define what are kind of the requirement for an SDK. So I can start drafting that. And so we can use that as like guidelines for people that might want to contribute to this. But yeah, it would be good to have like some smaller ones as well.
Yeah, I'm putting this to work on this on my calendar for September the 6th. So if we could make sure I have all the information to add to the blog by then, and then I'll do a shared blog with everybody and just so everybody can read through it, and we should be able to get it done before the end of the week, that week.
Sounds good.
And then Andrea, is the Java SDK up to date? I remember you said that it was kind of lagging behind last time. Is that something we can also add? Maybe you know, sync it up to latest, or if you want to call it that.
Yeah, so the Java SDK, well, Jalander maybe can talk better to that, but so we just made the 0.12 release, which is up to date with that version of the specification. And Jalander has been working on the code generation. And once that's merged, it hopefully should be pretty straightforward and to make it 0.2 and 0.3 release.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jalander, sorry, maybe you want to add to that the latest status on that.
Oh yeah, that's all. Like the generator code isn't pending for review. So once that is merged, so we will have another PR as a whole PR to generate different events. Yeah, so with that, like we can go to the latest version of, like you said. Yeah, so I'm waiting on the PR to review for the latest one. So that's the first step to go to the another versions. Yeah.
Nice. Do you think there are some subtasks within that work that could be created as issues for Oktoberfest, or is it? Well, maybe just have a think. Yeah.
It has subtasks like to generate other events in the same line once this PR is done. So yeah, probably it will be done like before only, I guess, like because the changes that I've done is in progress. I mean, some changes are in progress already, and I can raise a PR for that. So it may not go till Oktoberfest. Yeah, so it can be done before that even. Yeah.
Okay. But if there are other improvements or things that you think could be added to the Java SDK, feel free to raise issues and label them with Oktoberfest.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I will check again and then add if any. Sure.
Thanks. All right. Okay. Anything else on this topic? All right. So next in the list, I had connecting events. Does it make sense to go to that for everyone?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Okay. Would you like to lead the discussion on this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so primarily I think we're at a point where I'm just waiting for review comments. I've addressed all of Andrea's feedback, which was about a week ago. So we're at a good point where the spec is pretty finalized from my end. I mean, of course, if we want to change things, then of course, but I think we have a pretty good. I feel very confident in the design now, where I feel like this could work really well. I added the fields that you wanted in the context there, Andrea, which I did mention that the SDKs could pull those down from the headers, so we're just not sending duplicate information through the over the wire, but yeah, and so I started thinking about it some more. So I removed so originally it had the links, also a links field added as well, but like the parent field, but I think because I don't know about the use cases of how people are going to be using CDEvents, I just don't have enough information to make the correct judgment of including a parent field just yet. My idea was that we could release, or let's say we release this version, and if we get feedback, people saying, oh, every time I get a CD event, I have to query the parent ID or the global ID to get some sort of information, we can use that data to expand the the proposal, right, to include like whatever necessary use cases. If someone's like, oh, we always need the parent or the parent content, then we can include that in as a new separate field. But I think starting simple and small and getting the connection portion right first before I start thinking about, like, originally I was thinking about like trying to optimize or trying to send what is necessary for a consumer. But since a consumer can just query that anyways and then do what they will, I felt like this was the better approach. So that was kind of like the thought process there. And Emil, since you've been missing, yeah, I added these two headers, which is the global IDs and the parent IDs, which would be it follows the RFC, which I linked somewhere, which it's comma separated, the typical HTTP header spec. And yeah, and then also Emil, I have a section towards the bottom that I updated that discusses tracing. So it goes over like why tracing is probably not the best approach for links. So I kind of go over it. So I'll kind of give you the rough outline. So basically, spans are a unit of work. Span is a superset of a link. Or I think I have that reversed, so I should actually fix that. It should be a link is a superset of a span. While the formats don't overlap, I illustrate that a span has a lot of information. So I give you the link or the example span of open telemetry standard. So if you scroll down a little bit, that's all of the necessary fields that are required. Well, most of them are required, but some of them are not. Like flavor, for instance, is an optional field. But the reason why this is important that I want to highlight here is if you have something that like HTTP method is empty or HTTP server route is empty, like these fields are missing, some collectors like Jaeger or X-Ray won't show, it will drop that span. So if we do adopt open telemetry, we would have to basically be forced to use their semantics, which is a little concerning. And people might not know, like when they're using open telemetry with CDEvents, what spans are required or whatnot. Of course, we should probably hide that, but like I said, that if someone's manually modifying these spans, they can put themselves in a world of hurt if they don't understand what is required and what is not. And what's even more of a pain is X-Ray has different required fields than Jaeger. And by different, I should say, it just has more required fields, not different. It just has more required fields. So if you go down a little bit, I kind of give some more details on how context propagation is handled, and it kind of goes over like like the complications, like how it passes it with like headers and so on, and it kind of goes over with the missing, if you're missing a status code, for example, that span just gets dropped. It gets dropped in the open AWS Open Telemetry collector. Depending on the collector you use, it might not be dropped. So it's not even uniform across. The tooling is not uniform, so it's really hard to know what might or might not be needed. So yeah, so that's kind of the issue there. And then I kind of, if you scroll down a little bit, some more there. Yeah, so I said based on the number of complications, it kind of illustrates like what we would need to do to support something like open telemetry. And the work there is not small. I would say it might be roughly the same as doing anything else, honestly. The only benefit that we get here is that we get to utilize a collector, but the collector is not the main concern. The collector is actually probably the more easiest pieces of software here out of the whole thing. But the issue is that since the collectors are so different from one collector to another, depending on the tracing software that you use, that it can, like you said, with dropping spans and whatnot, could lead to more problems than it actually helps. And then we would also need to write a custom exporter for these collectors, which it would be basically writing a collector in the first place. So like I said, a lot of the code that we'd be writing would it's almost the identical amount of work, with the one caveat of writing basically the server of like ingesting the spans, or the tracing spans. So yeah, so with that said, it has a lot of issues with the collectors, with the SDKs, with the tooling, and I feel because of that, that I think it's better to go with our own simplified version. Well, simplified as in it's simple because it only supports what we need it to support, right? So that's kind of like where I'm standing at currently at the decision. So I know you're not going to be able to get the full picture just yet, Emil, because you're still reading this, but if you could take some time and address or whatever comments you have, that would be really, really useful there. And I try to outline as much as I could. So if something isn't clear, please let me know and I can expand on it. Kind of, like for instance, if I say hooks to potentially separate out normal traces from CDEvents, if you need me to expand on that, because the issue there is when you include a tracing library, there's no concept of expanding, separating things out. Like you need a separate plugin to handle this separation, if you will. So that's how Zipkin works. That's how B3 propagation works. So we at Apple, we use Zipkin, but that is a plugin in the Brave library. So yeah. So like I said, that's what I meant by like we'd just be writing plugins as opposed to writing a full library. But like I said, since this is going to be a more simplified version, the library shouldn't be as complex. But yeah, curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think you make very much sense there, and I don't think we should have any definitions in CDEvents that are specific to Jaeger or Zipkin or any other X-ray or anything like that to be generic enough. And I think my thought there, I think when I brought up the idea of reusing the trace context definition from OpenTelemetry here, I think it was more like we should use the same names for things that are called something specific in OpenTelemetry. For example, is it a parent? Is it a global? Is it what is it called?
Right. Yeah. So that's the global
not the
ID.
complete structure, I think, and I'm for sure not the complete OpenTelemetry event or the whole JSON of it. So I wasn't aware that it was so huge structure just to put the trace context there, but you're probably right there.
Yeah, so the names global ID and parent IDs are used in OpenTelemetry. Actually, this is where I kind of came up with these names is by taking them from OpenTelemetry because I have a lot of familiarity with that. So yeah, I think that is a good idea to make sure that we have at least the same verbiage and same semantics there, to make sure that people that are coming from one piece of technology to another have some sort of idea or clue to what we're talking about. So yeah, but yeah, that, like I said, please read that and kind of get some more input there. And if you need me to give you, like, I have pictures of like traces being dropped. So if you want to see that, like, you know, missing like one field, like what that looks like, because basically you have this whole graph and then you have this blank section of nothing, and then they don't know how things are connected, so that it kind of gets lost. You get two separate traces almost. So
no, I wouldn't expect like X-ray anyone to understand the CD event, the
yeah.
expecting part of a CD event. That's not, I think, what I'm expecting. It's just that we should reuse the same concepts and reuse the substructures, maybe reuse them whenever that's suitable.
Yeah,
But maybe
definitely.
that's the names in themselves only. I'm a bit concerned now when we talk about, we say this is the links.md and we talk about introducing links to CDEvents, but what we actually do is just a global ID, maybe a parent ID if we include that, or it's just a global ID. In what way is that really linking anything? To me, it's just creating a bag, a collection, a set of something.
Well, no, it is going to be linking. So this just introduces the two fields that are going to be present in the payload. But if you can scroll, I don't know if it's up or down. It goes over to storage, and oh wait, no, go up to the image. Actually, the image gives you a better idea of like what's happening. It's at the very top, the image. And if you click that, view file. So yeah, so this is what we'd be sending. So basically when you're sending a when you're using the SDKs, they would automatically send these links for you. So when you make a call, like a CD event, like let's say you make like a trigger caused or some sort of event, it would collect all these links or all these calls that you're making and then submit them to this link service. But those two fields would just kind of give you an idea of the person that's consuming it, where it's coming from, and how to query it if they choose. So that's kind of, those are the two fields. So there's two parts to this proposal. The first part is what is changing in the spec. And then the second part is how do we send the necessary information, the links in this case, like the, you know, give it some meaning of how things are connected to some, you know, in this case, I call it the link service, but it could also be a part of the event bus or whatever we want to call it. So yeah, so I think that answers the question, Emil. Does it?
Maybe. I can't really say.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really understand, I guess, the structures here between the middle bubbles and this link service, what they are, these to and from things, whatever they are.
Yeah. So if you, like I said, you'd have to like,
I had to read it better.
Yeah. That's what I was just gonna say. Like, you know, because when I first discussed it, because I don't want to regurgitate the same thing every single time. You know, when I went over the different types of links, you know, the kind of section by section. But I wanted to go over the tracing part because that was also updated since you had last left. And then the headers and whatnot. But yeah. So if you could just read the proposal and kind of go through what your thoughts are. But yeah, it's you know, like I said, it's doing quite, you know, like I said, it's changing the spec as well as you know, defining how we're persisting the relationships between each CD event.
So you define a link as some relation to something, for example, an event or grouping, etc. So it doesn't need to be between events. It could be to other things as well.
It could be, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think I have to give it a thought to understand a bit more what the intentions are here, because it's not really, at least not in my mind, exactly what we talked about in the beginning. We wanted, but maybe it's fine.
Yeah, well, originally I was going, you know, with what we talked about with like the links, but I wanted to start with a more simple approach for, like, I feel like this it's a simplified version of what we talked about, honestly. And I feel like this simplified version handles most, if not all, use cases. So that's why I went with this approach, because like I said, simple. I'm a huge believer in simplicity. But that's not to say I could have missed something. I mean, I'm that's why, I want people to review this. So if I do miss something and we need to change something or add something or remove something, please let me know. But I think the links, the format with the to and the from and the group handles, should be able to handle what you guys are doing at Ericsson. Of course you would have to change some things, but I'm pretty sure it would still be able to support what you guys support today.
Yeah, I'll try to digest the proposal and understand what it is.
Okay, yeah, no worries. And then also too, I wanted to bring up something that's not related to this, but Andrea, I am going to create a few PRs about the GitHub issues. Introducing the new fields like top level description and things like that. So I'll create those PRs today. I'll try to create at least one or two today, and then try to get them all done this week. I've just been really slammed with a bunch of stuff, so yeah, sorry about that.
No worries, thanks. But before we move away from the connecting events, I had some question as well. So
Sure.
I just wanted to understand. Well, one very simple, I think, the parent IDs. It's that's potentially an array, right?
Yeah. So it follows the header RFC, which are any header. Well, technically all headers are arrays.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just because in the example below it was just in the JSON, it was just a string. So that
got it. Yeah, because my assumption would be however the SDKs are consuming this would either be a comma separated string, but the SDKs, however, would probably parse that and make that an array, right? But this would be probably a comma separated string, like it would be a header that's comma separated, right? So
in the header, yes, but I think from a spec point of view, we should really stick with the JSON schemas and what is in there. I mean, we can then say what we want in the SDKs, or I mean the fact is that, I mean, CDEvents, we have a binding for cloud events, but cloud events also is not necessarily transported on HTTP. So I think defining it's a bit confusing for me to start with the HTTP header as part of the spec. But I mean, as I said, I think in my previous comment, I think we can say if some non-CDEvents system wants to send HTTP headers to have similar or consistent information, we can document that. But from a CDEvents point of view, there's no like HTTP headers that we can define as part of the spec, I think. So we could, because we have the cloud events binding, so we can have like cloud event extensions, and those are in the cloud events binding, then they're rendered as HTTP headers. But the format couldn't be like x-CDEvents, because if you send that through a cloud events router, it would drop those headers. So any header that is not known by cloud events, it will be dropped. So I think I investigated this.
But we
before.
would probably need to add to it, or they should allow for some way of hooking into those to specify that. If they don't, that's a pretty bad oversight, and we need to create a GitHub issue saying that.
No, I mean, you just have to use a specific naming. So if you want to have,
I see. I got it. Okay, it just has a named format that we need to follow, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's like CE-something.
Okay, yeah, that's perfectly fine. I just chose any arbitrary because I didn't know the restrictions for cloud events. Yeah, let me think about that. But on top of that, though, we should make headers a part of the spec if they're not. You know, like I don't understand why headers wouldn't be, because a lot of times people are going to be using HTTP or gRPC, which is just a layer on top of HTTP, right?
But not always. I mean, not always at all. I mean, we use RabbitMQ a lot in Ericsson, and RabbitMQ doesn't have those headers. For example, it's just the MQ feed.
Yeah, and that's fine. And you know, you might be you know, one of the different use cases, but I would say like a good like, well, no, because if you think about tracing, tracing is a good example. They all use headers. Do you guys not trace then? Like how do you guys not have traces?
Yeah, we do, but not for message, not for events. For events,
oh,
we
okay.
don't.
Yeah, but that's fine though, right? Because like if you can have tracing that has headers, it could still work. You know, oh, what you're saying for the message bus when you send it, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that's, you know, that's fine. You know, that could be something, you know, if it's not HTTP supported, you know, it could be then just in the body like how it already is. But we want to also support HTTP as well, because like I said, that's what tracing does, and that's how propagation works as well. You know, like if you're sending a for instance, if you're sending an event you know, to some service that doesn't have support for CDEvents, you know, that body, all this context, all that information, that's just going to be lost, right? Like this global ID, parent ID, like that's just going to be gone. You know, but if they have a header, they can at least, you know, pass the headers with whatever payload that they already support. What I'm saying, okay, so I see the confusion a little bit. What I'm saying is if they don't support CDEvents, right, and they just send their normal payload, they can still send the headers to persist that information. It's a lot easier to just whitelist 2 headers than it is to change a model. So that's why I think it should still be maybe part of, maybe not really part of the spec, but maybe talk about how to handle the passing of or propagating linking between events. Maybe that's a better way of approaching it. But I do want to talk about you know, maybe we could say like instead of new headers, we could call it new fields slash propagation or something of that nature, if that helps. But yeah, I think we still want to have some description of, you know, if you want to, if you support HTTP and this is what you're using, you can definitely use these 2 headers, and the SDKs will pull those down and then continue to use them if they exist.
Yeah, I think the only thing is that we want CDEvents to be portable on top of different type of transport, right? So that's why it starts from the contact and subject that you have there, and in there you can have these new fields like the global ID and the list of parent IDs, and then you have still part of the spec, but the kind of the binding type of document where you say, well, when I'm transporting this CDEvent on top of HTTP, these 2 fields should actually be rendered there.
Yeah.
HTTP header, right?
I definitely agree. But it's weird to me that maybe because RabbitMQ is old, that they have no way of supporting headers or something of that nature. Because like tracing, if you have a black box, even on, you know, like the greatest thing about tracing is that you can, you know, you can trace whatever, you know, like whatever service, but propagation is done through headers. I'm sure there's probably some plugins that allow for propagating it without headers, but it's probably converting it to headers later. So it might need to be like a RabbitMQ plugin that does the kind of the same thing. I would have to look, but but yeah, like I said though, header like HTTP and HTTP2, like if we were back 10, 15 years ago, I would say, yeah, we should probably not include headers in the spec. But HTTP2 is so powerful that I think like like I said, like I'm really like it really shocked me that RabbitMQ doesn't support it. I'm actually gonna look that up because it's kind of weird, but yeah, but I think I can definitely add those points though, and make it more protocol agnostic. But I don't know, like what other protocols are there that you guys want to support?
Well, I mean, you could have one of the things that we're considering is working with the OpenTelemetry folks to support sending like a JSON CDEvent as a JSON body into a like OpenTelemetry type of message, but that's still not defined, but there is a proposal on OpenTelemetry side. But even with cloud events that we have today, cloud events, they have multiple type of transport that they support. So cloud events, they support an HTTP-based transport, but they also support an MQTT-based transport. And so unless we want to exclude those specifically, we need to we simply need to define what certain bits of information, how they render in the specific
Got
transport.
it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Because MQTT is quite old and okay. But yeah, people are using that. Okay. Yeah, let me think about and it sounds like Emil, it sounds like you guys are using MQTT or
Well,
let's see.
we're currently using RabbitMQ, but we're not bound to using it for all future, of course. So we can.
Oh
change.
yeah, no, I'm just wondering,
But-
yeah, because like because RabbitMQ, I think by default uses MQTT, but I could be wrong.
That's AMQP.
Oh, is it? Oh,
AMQP
okay. Oh, right, okay, yeah. Yeah, it looks like that
It's
is
not
what it is.
telemetry
Okay.
So
transfer.
this is
AMQP. Yeah.
Okay. Then yeah, then RabbitMQ can't work with tracing then, unless, well, it can because it has HTTP support with a plugin though. So, or not with a plugin. Oh yeah, it is a plugin. Okay, so yeah, so you can use tracing with a RabbitMQ, except you would have to use a plugin for that.
But
Okay.
Cloud has quite a lot of different bindings, as you see here now. So HTTP is just one of the 10, 15 different or 12 different.
Yeah, but 99.99% of people use HTTP, right? Like,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Isn't everyone using Kafka these days?
I think Kafka and WebSockets are all based on HTTP, aren't they?
I can't say. I don't know. They are specific here, but maybe they are.
Yeah, it's based off that these are all like a lot of these are subsets of HTTP. Like protobuf is HTTP2. Webhooks, those are web, that's HTTP. XML, that's HTTP. JSON, that's HTTP. HTTP is HTTP. WebSockets also HTTP. So like half of these are already supported by they're all just HTTP.
Okay.
But with that said,
But yeah. I think what we should focus on primarily is not what binding we have, but what the
right.
protocol should look like. I mean, what should our JSON structures look like? Then how we transport it and how it can be filtered or routed in the transport layer. That's another question, and it's a question about the binding.
Right.
So the content of the event should be our primary focus, and then I think what Andrea you were into there, that parent ID in the JSON body down there should be a list, an array instead of a string. That one, yeah. So if it should support multiple,
that should be, well, I was following the header format, like this would be like, it would say like parent ID, well, it's JSON, but yeah, this would definitely be an array.
Yeah.
all right.
And then
we
what
are
I could
almost-
do then is mention the 2 new fields, right? So let me know if this works. I mentioned the 2 new fields, just global ID and parent ID. And then I mentioned bindings. However, you're sending this data depends on your bindings. And then I can mention, for example, HTTP these would be headers that would be populated in the JSON, but would be sent as headers. And then vice versa. I can include like MQTT, Kafka, and then will still be headers, but just the different ideas. Would that work? That would at least make it agnostic.
That kind of information we have in the Cloud Events binding MD file or whatever it's called, right?
Oh, that's a good idea. You
Yeah.
just link there. Okay.
Yeah.
Move this information out to that file, and then
Got
it's,
it. Got it.
Yeah.
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 That works perfect. Okay. I'll update that to make this more agnostic, and then that should handle that. And then I'll fix that to be an array as well.
Yeah. So I think you can, if you define them in the Cloud Event bindings to be Cloud Event extensions, then the Cloud Event specification already defines how those extensions will be rendered in all the different protocols they support. So we don't have to deal with that. And that's
Do
also
anything.
why
Oh, that's perfect.
we wanted to use Cloud Events, because it gives us this abstraction, so we don't have to go and deal into the specific of each and every protocol, basically.
But then, okay, I don't know enough about the Cloud Events SDK too much. I'm curious, how does it put the headers back into JSON and vice versa? I'm guessing it has some way, but I'm just kind of curious what that looks like. Okay, yeah, I'll do a little bit of research on that too, to kind of familiarize myself with that part of things.
Yeah, no, that would have to be the CDEvents spec, because from the Cloud Events spec SDK point of view, the body is kind of transparent, so that's the payload is transparent, so they don't know what's inside, right? So that, but the CDEvent SDK can create a CDEvent, and then you can say, give me a Cloud Event out of that, and it will take your global ID and parent ID and set them as extensions for the Cloud Events SDK. And then the Cloud Events SDK will take care of putting those extensions in the right place, depending on the transport that you configured. If it makes sense.
Yeah. I would still need to look into the SDK. I get what you're saying, but I'm just more like, how did they, what did they do to like make this possible? I have an idea how I would do it, because I have a lot of experience with SDKs, but I'm just like, I had no idea that's something that they already supported, but that's good to know. And I completely forgot they existed, to be honest. Got Cloud Events, so yeah.
All right. Well, we are almost at time. I guess we can take the rest of the topics for carryover for the next meeting. But thanks a lot for the presentation on this, Ben, and for the discussion. I also feel like we're getting close to being ready to release this, so that's great.
Yeah, and then so now we're at a more, well, I'll wait for Emil's feedback first after I update the PR. Do you want me to start addressing the to-dos, like for instance updating the JSON and whatnot? Because I feel like we're more on an agreement now. So basically, if Emil is okay with the structure, I'll go ahead and add the JSON schema to the PR as well. So yeah, that wasn't a question. I was just letting you know what my plans were.
Yeah, I can't guarantee. I might be able to do it on Thursday. Tomorrow I will be totally busy, but on Thursday I might be able to look into this a bit. So hopefully by end of Thursday you will have some feedback from me on this. I hope so.
Okay. Yeah, Emil, no rush. Just let me know, whenever you get around to it. And then once I figure out, we're at a more stable portion of things aren't going to be changing, at least with the payload side of things, I'll add the JSON schema and whatever else that's left on the to-dos for that PR.
So guys, I have another call to jump on.
All right, cool.
Nice to see you.
I just have a question. Are we going to do a blog for the 0.4 release, and is it done?
We plan to, but we don't have one, and we don't know yet.
We have
I
it
guess
scheduled for August 31st, right?
Yes, that was kind of our target date. I guess the main beta functionality that we were aiming to get in there was this connecting event. So I don't think that will be ready for August the 31st.
Okay.
So
All right,
we'll
I'll
have
let
to decide.
Roxanne know. I've been pinging Roxanne to try to tell her to remind me about blogs. So we'll do that for think about it in September.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Thanks all. Love the discussion
Thanks,
today.
Tracy.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Bye.
Tracy.
Any last thought? Anyone before we close? Anything that you want to bring up?
No, I think we're good. And
Yeah.
good to have you back, Emil. We missed you.
Okay.
Yeah. You do anything fun for vacation or just relax?
Mostly cleaning up houses.
Oh, awesome. Good.
moving out stuff from houses to be able to empty another house and stuff. So yeah.
Just been
My
busy, man.
My mother-in-law has just moved from her house to an apartment, so that house needs to be sold.
Oh, got it.
I need to empty it first, so that's what I've been doing mostly this summer.
So you weren't on vacation, it sounds like.
Yeah, not physically, but mentally I was on
Mentally,
vacation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, thanks everyone. Good discussion on the links proposal. I'll make those changes and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.